Welcome back to the New Jersey Morning Show. I'm Laura Jones, and the United States this week, we've seen two startling mass murders in the United States in the past 2 weeks. 10 people killed in Boulder, Colorado at a supermarket just this week. And last week, 8 people killed at a Georgia massage parlor. The killing at 3 Atlanta area massage parlors sent fear through Asian American community during a time where we're already seeing a spike in anti-Asian violence. Joining us now is Congressman Andy Kim from New Jersey's 3rd Congressional District. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me this morning.
Congressman, New Jersey's Attorney General came out this week with some numbers, and you joined Governor Phil Murphy discussing bias and race in the state. And some of the numbers were very startling. Can you share a little bit with us what you saw?
Well, what you see across the board, certainly with anti-Asian American bias and discrimination, we see a big jump between 2019 and 2020. We see that, and look, what I'll tell you is that I'm really certain that that number is very much below what is actually happening out there. I hear from a lot of Asian Americans their reluctance or concern about how to come forward and be able to report this. So that's something that we need to keep in mind. But one thing I also want to say is that it's startling to see the numbers across the board of just how much more hate and division and discrimination is happening against the AAPI community, the Asian American community, as well as others. So this is just a dangerous trend in our nation of that hatred on the rise.
Congressman, earlier this week, you, as Laura had mentioned, you had a roundtable discussion with Governor Murphy. That was broadcast live on Facebook. What did you learn from that discussion? Was anything kind of resolved in any way, or a plan of action made?
Well, right now it is about trying to, first of all, listen and engage with the Asian American community. I appreciate the governor and the attorney general doing that with me. But it's also about coming up with a plan about how we can mobilize going forward and do this right. We had some really interesting discussion about training that can be done both for the Asian American community in terms of how to better prepare ourselves and respond to this discrimination, but also for law enforcement and others about how we can increase and strengthen our ability to report the discrimination and the crimes as they're happening, and just increase attention and building a wide coalition that we recognize that we're not just concerned about bias or discrimination against people that look like us, but making sure that we build that broad coalition across all of our communities. Those are some of the things I'd like to take going forward out of that conversation.
Congressman, some people might look and they're saying, wow, look, you're a member of Congress. What must that be like? And he must not have experienced any bias or hate, but you actually tweeted about this week and saying, quote, "I'll never forget the feeling when I learned that my own government questioned my loyalty." Can you tell us what happened?
Well, this was a couple of years ago when I worked at the State Department. I worked as a United States diplomat. I served in Afghanistan as a civilian advisor there to the military. I had top secret security clearance. But I remember one day I received a letter from the State Department saying that I'm banned from working on anything related to Korea because of my background, because I'm Korean American. And what shocked me is I was not even looking to work on anything Korea related. This was just a preemptive effort that the government took, questioning my loyalty, basically telling me that they don't trust me enough to work on this. They don't know if I would be able to represent America because of my last name. And I'm born in the United States. I don't even really speak Korean very well. I don't really have any ties there.
Well, I think that this is what frightens so many people is you are in a position within government. You are now a representative. And if this is happening to you, what else do we not know? And what is not being reported? And that I think is can be frightening and intimidating. But do you have hope that by sharing this story, by taking something negative and turning it into positive and moving the discussion forward to bringing people together, what is your hope on that?
That is my hope. And I take hope from the fact that while that happened to me before, and while I also experienced discrimination over the last year where I had people yell at me to get away from them because they thought they'd get COVID from me simply because I'm Asian American, I've experienced that firsthand. But I've also seen my district which is a district where there's actually not that many Asian Americans. This is less than 3% Asian Americans in my district. This is the district that voted for the first Korean American Democrat in the history of our country to represent in Congress. And I think it shows that we are understanding that I can be a voice in Congress for people that don't look like me. And I think that that's an important step, gives me hope. And what gives me hope is seeing so many people outside of the Asian American community stepping up right now, showing their solidarity. That's what's going to get us through this as a country.
Congressman, you recently launched a new political action committee called In Our Hands. What are you looking to do with your PAC?
Well, this was something that I've been thinking about a lot. When I first started to run for Congress back in 2017, I remember a lot of people telling me, like, look, you seem like a nice guy and all, but there's just no way that you're going to be able to win this seat in Congress because this district's over 80% white and less than 3% Asian American. And it hurt so much to have people just try to define what I am or am not capable of doing simply because of how I look and my ethnicity. And so this was an effort to just try to encourage and raise up new voices. I truly believe that we're not going to have the government that we need unless we have a government that looks a lot more like the rest of America, and that we need to embrace that diversity. So I'm trying to encourage Asian Americans as well as other candidates of color to step up, run for office, not just Congress, but any level, and just make sure that we're having our voices heard, that we understand that we can have a seat at the table, and that other people can see that Asian Americans can be in these positions of influence, and that we can represent everybody, that we're American, and that, try to fight back against this xenophobia and this foreignness that I think is so often associated with us, that I experience at the State Department and elsewhere. So that's what I'm trying to do, is lift up these voices.
I love that.
We're all here. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We so appreciate your time and everything that you're doing. And I, again, just thank you for taking some time to talk with us this morning.
I appreciate it. Thank you.